Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Thursday's edition of the Doctor Who Daily. Now, I found an interesting little Screen Rant article that really displays Chris Chibnall's creative bankruptcy. So let's give it a read, and I find it very hilarious even reading this. By the way, if my throat gets croaky, we're not starting the video again. We're going to continue. I'll try and cough and stuff to clear it, because my throat's in the morning. I've only got one throat. My throat in the morning is terrible. Anyway, Doctor Who showrunner explains Flux plot. Once you have to explain it to them, you've got a problem. The BBC has released an official breakdown of Doctor Who Flux, hosted by showrunner Chris Chibnall and the 13th Doctor Jodie Whittaker by Thomas Bacon. The BBC has released a breakdown of Doctor Who Flux, in which showrunner Chris Chibnall and star Jodie Whittaker explain the plot. The coronavirus pandemic forced Doctor Who showrunner Chris Chibnall to change the format of season 13. Right, this is not true at all. Right, season 13 was always going to be short and sweet. It was always going to be an event series. It's not an event series because of the pandemic, right? And please, people who are trying to say, oh my God, even if you don't like Chris Chibnall, just to make it the way it was in a pandemic era is amazing. Everyone making television and film is working in the same situation, and they've found a way of doing it. It's not a big deal. You get tested, you go to work, you stay in a special hotel, it's fine. They don't deserve a fucking, Medal of fucking Valor for it, so please stop. Ironically, he returned to something a little closer to the classic series with an abbreviated 6-episode season with a single overarching narrative. Two things about this. The idea of an event series may be going back to classic Who, but Doctor Who Flux doesn't do it in the same workable structure. There's no question about that. And we were supposed to have 8 or 9 episodes. One week at Comic Con at Home, it was announced we were going to have about 8-9 episodes, right? Then, a couple of weeks later, or a week later, a few days later actually, they told us it was down to 6 episodes. Were those 8 episodes ever made? It sounds like they were, because they must have finished doing them by then. So it's interesting what happened to those other episodes. What a mess. The result was Doctor Who Flux, a story in which the Doctor's quest to recover her lost timeless child memories coincided with a potentially universe-destroying threat. Doctor Who Flux dramatically rewrote the show's mythology, revealing the true nature of time as a malevolent force restrained by the Time Lords 1 billion years ago. Think about this for a moment, right? So he rewrote the show's mythology. By the way, you can add to mythology, but never rewrite it. Anyway, revealing the true nature of time as a malevolent force restrained by the Time Lords. Interesting. It kind of makes sense in a way. I'll go with it. 1 billion years ago, and ultimately bringing the Doctor face to face with the woman who had raised her, Tecteun. The creator of the Flux, who had coincided the universe to destruction because of the Doctor's influence. There were a lot of twists and turns. First of all, right, you're asking me to believe that this person created the Flux so the Doctor wouldn't be a threat? That's it? That's all you're giving me? Coincided with the universe to destruction because of the Doctor's influence. There were a lot of twists and turns, some of which were poorly signposted. Yep, there you go. And as a result, viewers have been confused about a lot of the plot. That must be the pandemic's fault as well, right? Perhaps partly in response to this confusion, the BBC has released a YouTube video in which Chris Chibnall and the 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, explain the plot. The focus of the video is really on the Doctor's character arc, explaining why the Flux was a personal threat and discussing the impact upon her as a person. It builds to a discussion on why the Doctor chose not to open the chameleon arch fob. What basically they're talking about, I don't know what the arch fob, but the chameleon arch. Basically, it's the fob watch. The watch containing her forgotten memories, choosing to accept she is not defined by her past. Right. This is Chibnall's explanation for Jodie's doctor not opening the fob watch, right? The chameleon arch, right? If she's not defined by her past, Chris, why bother doing a story where you rewrite her past? If it doesn't fucking matter, what's the point of doing it? The only point of doing it should be to expand on this new history you've ingrained into the Doctor's mythology. As a writer, do something interesting. Give us an event series that covers this. No, she's the timeless child now. It is what it is, but she's not defined by her past, so we don't have to deal with it. As I say, you don't have to deal with it, Chris. Why bother doing it in the first place and upsetting so many people? It seems pointless, because it is pointless. Anyway, it's fascinating. It's a fascinating video, clearing up a lot of the main plot elements. Shouldn't the actual TV show be doing that? That were confusing, such as how Swarm and Azure were able to transport themselves to Division headquarters in Doctor Who Flux episode 6. Again, this is something that either should be explained or doesn't really fucking matter. Personally, I don't care how they did it, right? But there's a lot of people who are kind of nitpicky, right? So that's fine. But again, they're trying to sew up his bad writing in a kind of explain all video. It's embarrassing at this point. It shows how creatively bankrupt this man is. Unfortunately, the BBC's breakdown of Doctor Who unwittingly highlights many of the problems with Chibnall's storytelling. The character beats described in the video were all there, but they were underdeveloped. Underdeveloped is putting it mildly, but underdeveloped is everything that Chibnall is. Even he's fucking underdeveloped. But it's not about underdeveloping characters and stories. It's about being creatively lazy. He can't be fucking bothered to develop his characters and give them nuance and a soul, or, you know, make a story. He comes up with good ideas, right? It's like me being a writer on Doctor Who. I can give you loads of great ideas for Who, but can I expand on them? Can I do the job? Probably, but I don't have the experience to work on such a show. But this is what I mean. I would have the excuse of not being on elite television before, right? Like British television or American television. So I would have that excuse. He has no excuse. He's done it all. He's a very experienced elite writer. How has he got to this position when he can't even be bothered to develop his stories, flesh out his stories and his characters? Meaning the story lacked the emotional impact. Yes, that's something else about Chibnall's era of Doctor Who. It has no emotional impact. Chibnall intended it to possess. Furthermore, it's striking how many plot lines were actually secondary to the main arc and aren't even mentioned in the breakdown. This is fascinating, right? Believe you me, the stuff he didn't mention in the breakdown means jack shit, and it's never going to be mentioned again. And let's go back to this whole thing that she's not defined by her past. We did all this at the end of season 12. Why are you wasting our fucking oxygen on season 13 and giving us the same moral of the story again? What, just to underline your creative bankruptcy and creative laziness that you can't be bothered to expand on the timeless child? The Sontarans felt like the main villains of Doctor Who Flux, taking advantage of the chaos Tecteun had unleashed, and yet they don't even merit a mention. There's an unfortunate lack of focus in the storytelling, as demonstrated by the need to even release this breakdown at all. Great stuff by this person writing this, exactly. Once you write this breakdown, once you do a video with the star of the show, and I must admit I have great sympathy for Jodie here. I mean, listen, I know she's worked with the man before, I know they're meant to be mates, but come on, Jodie. I mean, you'll never admit this, but this is bad for you. If I decided to cast the first female Doctor, and I cast Jodie, for example, I personally probably wouldn't have cast Jodie, probably would have been another female, but anyway, Jodie is a very capable actor, no question about that. If I cast Jodie, the first thing I'm doing, we're sitting down and we're thinking about the nuances, like RTD did with Eccleston and Tennant, like all those showrunners in the classic Who era did. You sit down and say, right, how are we characterising this version of the Doctor? The point is you sit down and you think about it. And if Jodie doesn't get Doctor Who because she hasn't bothered to watch any of the past, which she admitted she didn't, say, look, Jodie, the Doctor is a Time Lord who can regenerate into anything. The Doctor can rebuild his, her or their body when they're dying. When every cell in their body is dying, they can regenerate and rebuild. The problem with this process is the Doctor's personality changes and appearance changes. So really they're starting again, Jodie, which means you've got the clay to mould whatever you want with this version of the Doctor. It's still the Doctor, nothing gets forgotten, everything gets remembered, you're still playing the character, but you can literally do anything you want. So I sit there with Jodie and we mould together as lead actor and showrunner kind of an arc for the character, an emotional arc like Russell did from the beginning of Eccleston's era to the end of Tennant's era. This is what you do, and you decide what kind of personality this Doctor's going to have and what kind of flaws. And there's the problem, because Chibnal doesn't want Whittaker's Doctor to have flaws because he's decided that females are flawless, because this is the political propaganda people like Chris want to put out there, and this is all part of the problem. Matters are compounded by Chibnall's interpretation of the Doctor's character journey in Doctor Who Flux, which is unfortunately quite reductive. According to Chibnall, the whole purpose of Doctor's quest in season 13 was to learn she's not defined by her past. Hang on a minute, this is funny. Come on, you've got to admit this is funny, right? So, at the beginning of Doctor Who Flux, she's purposely looking for people to tell her more about the division. So she's doing all of this, looking for her past because she's not defined by her past. Think about what you're saying, Chris. It's absolute insanity. You need to drink some Horlicks and lay down. What you're saying it doesn't make sense. But that is the very same lesson she was supposed to have learned in Doctor Who Season 12. By the way, that's a good point, which I've just mentioned. Episode 10 and her coming to understand it literally gave her the power to break free of the Matrix, the repository of the Time Lord knowledge. The Doctor has apparently spent the entirety of Doctor Who Flux relearning that lesson. But I'll go back to my original point. If she's not defined by her past, why is she going up to Carvanista at the beginning of the series asking about the division? If you're not defined by your past, you're not looking for your past, and this is what she's doing at the beginning of the freaking series. There's no logic to this. It doesn't make sense. This is crazy. The Chibnall era is coming to an end. Yes! With his story to be completed in 3 upcoming Doctor Who specials. Given that's the case, it's reasonable to assume the breakdown is intended to help prepare viewers for these specials, which are expected to continue the story of the Timeless Child and reveal the Doctor's true origin. And do you know what the Doctor's true origin is going to be after all of this? It's going to be exactly what it was before the Timeless Child was revealed. Because the Doctor is not the Timeless Child. The Master was probably disguised as Tek Tae-Yun. Right? Yeah. And somehow vanished instead of being killed at that moment in the previous episode 5 of Doctor Who Flux. So Tek Tae-Yun and the Master, whoever that was, lied to the Doctor. She is not the Timeless Child. I'm convinced by this. The Doctor isn't the Timeless Child, somebody else is. And it may remain, knowing Chibnall will say we don't actually know who it is or some bullshit like that. Or it could be the Master, even Yaz, which is a little theory of mine as well. But I don't actually believe that she is the Timeless Child, which makes the whole fucking story even more tiresome. But he could double down on this and say she is the Timeless Child. This is now the Doctor's backstory. But considering I believe that RTD is going to kind of semi reboot Doctor Who again, none of this is going to fucking matter. By the way, RTD's Doctor Who may be set on Universe 2, which I believe could be a thing as well. So she could be the Timeless Child, but it won't matter because the Doctor RTD's dealing with will be a different Doctor to hers, the original Doctor. Also, he could use David Tennant's human meta-crisis Doctor to be the main Doctor. And somehow, instead of being half human, find a way to keep on regenerating. They could do something here. This is why I've kind of 25% think that Tennant may be cast to come back. Think about how huge this would be. But not as the original Doctor he was playing, but as the human meta-crisis Doctor. There's more nuance in that role as well. And we kind of want that story continued. Does that mean Billie Piper would be involved as well? Well, I can't exactly remember if they're still together. I don't think anything happened to contradict them still being in that alternate universe, so parallel universe. So I think they're still there. So yeah, you could reunite Billie Piper and David Tennant. Rose Tyler with the human meta-crisis Doctor. They could even have kids. I mean, he's half human, right? So interesting, something could happen. You know, he could do, you know, Davies could do something nuts here. So I know people can say to me it's too obvious to do Tennant. We can't go back to the past, blah, 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 blah. Doctor Who is down on its fucking knees. Doing this would work. And I would watch the shit out of this, and I don't care if it's kind of going back to its past and not being original. Nothing's original these days. Why should Doctor Who be any different? That certainly explains why so much of the breakdown is spent pointing to the various loose threads. The Tectayunes confirming the Doctor's multiversal origin and the Doctor's hiding the fob watch away for now. For Chibnal, Doctor Who Flux was the next step in the Timeless Child journey, but the destination won't be reached until next year. Yeah, thank you for pointing out the damn obvious, but a lot of your points were really good, so well done to that person whose name I forgot who wrote the article. So basically, what was the point of them doing that video? To confirm certain things and say, you know, oh, this is, you know, this happened and that happened and this is why that happened, and the Doctor's not defined by her past. But until she opens up that fob watch, you can't confirm she's the Timeless Child, because basically you expect us to accept she's the Timeless Child because a villain in Tectayune who used and abused her, killed her again and again, used her, extracted her DNA so she could create Time Lord Society. We're supposed to accept the word of this person? Of course not. And Chibnal knows this. So, I don't think she's the Timeless Child, but even if she is, it confirms to what I'm saying. Because think about this for a minute. If there's a parallel... Think about this actually, because I was just talking about the human meta-crisis Doctor and Rose Tyler on a parallel universe, right? They're on a parallel universe, right? They're on a fucking parallel universe! So think about this for a minute, right? They are, aren't they? They are on a parallel universe, right? Am I right? They are on a separate universe to the Doctors. This Doctor's right. I am right. Again, as usual, comment down below if I'm talking utter bullshit, because I do a lot. But anyway, if they're on a parallel universe, right, not the universe Jodie's Doctor's on, think about this. That universe gets destroyed because we don't even know if the universe was fixed at the end of Doctor Who Flux, which probably means it's not. And he didn't even bring that point up or try and make any sense of that in this video discussion he did with Jodie. So let's just say Universe 1 is fucked, it's gone, and Russell can do a kind of... This is what I mean. It wouldn't be a total reboot. It'll be a semi-revival, and you're on this parallel Earth that Russell T Davies set up all along. Isn't that interesting? Because don't forget, he left Rose there, right? And it's interesting because I don't know what happened. Oh no, I do know what happened. I'm trying to remember what happened at the end of Journey's End and all of that, because I haven't seen those episodes in such a long time. He takes her back in the human meta-crisis Doctor at Bad Wolf Bay, right? So basically they're on a parallel Earth, right? A parallel universe. So again, I could be talking bullshit. So that universe our original Doctor's on is gone. She's gone, right? So now we have this human meta-crisis Doctor. Nothing's forgotten. It's all connected on another Earth, but now we've got this Doctor who's been existing on a parallel universe all these years, and now he's going to be the main Doctor. So this is a way you can bring back Tennant and make it more original without dealing with the Tennant that we knew and loved, because we know that this Doctor's got human reactions, and because he's half human, and he was created in war, as Russell wrote as some of the dialogue in Journey's End. Was Russell planning this all along? So, I've predicted to you so many things. Tom Holland, Tom Ellis, lots of things. And I've just convinced myself that David Tennant's going to be recast as the Doctor, and he's going to be the human meta-crisis Doctor, and everything's set on this parallel universe. As I say, imagine it. The Doctor and Rose could have children now. They could be married. You know, they could be an actual couple. This would be a mad way of doing it. This would be like Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, but in Doctor Who. There's a lot of potential in it. And imagine the mainstream audience. The people grew up wishing that the Doctor and Rose would be a couple, could get their way. But it could be done in a fun, serious way that it doesn't piss anyone off. I think this is so Russell T Davies. And I've been wondering from the moment he was announced, is he going to cast someone brand new? Why is he allowing? Why are these things being leaked to the press? Oh, this person's going to do it, or that person's going to do it. To distract us from the truth that David Tennant will return as the Doctor. This has been the Doctor Who Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again tomorrow with even more Doctor Who Daily. Until then, goodbye.